National crisis creates political opportunity. Always has, always will. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is absolutely taking advantage of the political opportunity afforded him by the ongoing protests in Los Angeles over Donald Trump's deportation policies, as well as Trump's decision to call up the California National Guard and put Marines on the ground in the second largest city in the country. I want to go through all of that, as well as why this is good for Gavin Newsom's 2028 prospects, but maybe bad for the Democratic Party's prospects, which I know might not make a ton of sense. But let's start with this. Over the last 5 to 6 days, this fight, this back and forth with law enforcement and protesters on the streets has become sort of a proxy war between two politicians, Donald Trump in Washington, Gavin Newsom in California. They have gone back and forth repeatedly on social media and otherwise, both of them leaning into this fight because they both think it's advantageous for them. I've already talked about why I think this works for Donald Trump. He's talking about immigration. It's his pet issue. It's the thing that probably got him elected along with the economy. So he's going to keep talking about it. But I want to talk about Newsom. So Newsom is a guy who is quite clearly running for president in 2028, or at least wants to. I know he hasn't announced yet, but he wants to run, and I would expect he will run. And right now, there's kind of a leaderless Democratic Party, right? Joe Biden's not the leader. Kamala Harris isn't really the leader of the party. Pete Buttigieg, no. Josh Shapiro, no. Gretchen Whitmer, no. Barack Obama, no, right? The party doesn't really have an obvious leader. And a foil to Donald Trump. Enter Gavin Newsom amid these LA protests. He is quite clearly positioning himself to be that person and to make this about much more than just the Los Angeles protest, to make this a broader indictment of Donald Trump and Trumpism. So Newsom put out a video, an 8-minute video on Tuesday night, where he talked about this back and forth with Trump and what's going on. And I want to bring up one set of lines from it because I think it tells you everything you need to know about Newsom and his ambitions. He said this, quote, "This isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes." Like I said, he is trying to broaden this out. Now that video racked up millions of views. It also was on the homepages of the New York Times and the Washington Post on Wednesday morning. And the Wall Street Journal is calling Gavin Newsom, got Trump on the brain, Gavin Newsom the, quote, leader of the opposition, which is exactly what Gavin Newsom wants. Now, let me explain that a little bit and talk about, I think, the potential peril for the Democratic Party, even though what's happening now is good for Gavin Newsom, in a sec. But before I do that, I want to make a pitch. Subscribe to this channel. I am independent from big media companies and billionaires who own them, and independent from the two political parties. I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing, without fear or favor, not favoring one side or the other. Now more than ever, I think we need it, and I hope you'll subscribe. Okay, so what Newsom is up to here is clearly he wants this fight to go on as long as possible. I don't mean the fight, the protests in the streets. He would like those certainly not to be violent, but he doesn't mind a back and forth with Donald Trump every day dominating the national news for a week or two. I'll give you one more example. Tom Homan, the border czar for Donald Trump, made a sort of offhand comment that it was possible that Gavin Newsom could be arrested if he blocked the calling up the California National Guard. To which Newsom responded, "Come arrest me, tough guy." I'm paraphrasing, but basically that. Look, Gavin Newsom would like nothing more, politically speaking, than for the Trump administration to arrest him. He would become an absolute martyr and hero to the liberal left, and that is exactly where you want to be at this point when you are running for president. Now, I don't think the Trump administration would be stupid enough to arrest Gavin Newsom, and I'm not sure what they would arrest him for anyway. That's a whole other conversation. Donald Trump was asked why Gavin Newsom should be arrested, and he said, because he got elected governor of California. That's not why you get arrested for things. Anyway, The point is Gavin Newsom wants this fight. Gavin Newsom welcomes this fight. He loves it being Newsom versus Trump, right? Because now he's the equal, at least for a couple weeks, of the president of the United States. And it's on an issue, which is fighting Trump, being tough on Trump, trolling Trump, that the liberal base absolutely 100% wants. They do not want people who play nice with Donald Trump. They just don't. They want people who say, this guy's a threat to democracy. This is bad. Now, I don't think that's a winning 2028 general election issue for Gavin Newsom, but in a primary, in the very early stages, we're in 2025, talking about a 2028 primary, I actually think it's very smart positioning for him. So he's going to keep this up for as long as he can. Now, I said earlier in the video, I tell you why I don't know that this is a good thing for the Democratic Party. Here's the deal. When we have cars on fire, when we have looting, when we have the mayor of Los Angeles declaring a curfew, when we have people throwing things at law enforcement officials, none of that accrues to the benefit of the Democratic Party. Because what you do not want to be, if you're Democrats, is looking like you are siding with those people. Now, what's hard is you can't side with the peaceful protesters and disavow the violent protesters. I know you can do it rhetorically, but it's way harder to do in reality because people are like, well, they're all the same. No, they're not all the same, but it's hard to do. So I've said before, and I'll say again, the more Donald Trump is able to look tough on immigration and look like he's on the side of law enforcement against people who are doing the burning and looting, the better that issue is for him. So what Newsom needs is for the protest to turn peaceful, and I think that what the Democratic Party needs is for the protest to turn peaceful, and I think the last 2 nights have been far more peaceful than the night before that, and for this to turn into a conversation about Donald Trump's deportation policies and his sort of broader authoritarian leanings. That's a not terrible conversation for Democrats to have, but a conversation that is mitigated and constantly being influenced by images of violence on TV screens, that's not a conversation Democrats are going to win, politically speaking. They want to talk about the economy. They want to talk about Trump's authoritarian leanings, maybe. They want to talk about, the broader issues of deportation and immigration, maybe. But they don't want this to be about, are you on the side of law enforcement or are you on the side of these protesters, particularly the violent protesters? That's a lose for them. So Newsom wants to lean into this as much as possible. He wants to fight it out with Trump. He wants to become, as the Wall Street Journal named him, the leader of the opposition. That is great for Gavin Newsom. But I do think Democrats have to be very, very careful on this issue because immigration, the way it's currently being framed, is not a winning issue for them. It's a winning issue for Donald Trump. It's why Donald Trump is leaning into it. So good for Newsom, potentially problematic for the broader Democratic Party. But I will say, Newsom clearly understands that politics is about taking advantage of opportunities. This is a political opportunity for him, no question, and he has taken advantage of it and I think helped himself when it comes to conversations about 2028. He has leapt from mid-pack to close to top of pack. Let's see if he can stay there. But this has been, again, I am not judging. I don't want violence on the streets. I don't want crises, but I'm looking at it through a political lens, and this crisis is an opportunity that Gavin Newsom has, and I think will continue to take advantage of. All right, that's it from me. As always, I ask you to do a few things. Subscribe, like I said earlier. You also can like and comment on this video. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, getting my stuff, pushing my stuff out to more people who don't already see or subscribe to my channel. Last thing you can do is old school. Tell a friend or two. Tell somebody you run into. Tell somebody who likes politics. Hey, this is guy's independent. He used to work for the Washington Post, CNN. Now he's on his own, and he's doing his own thing, and I think you should check it out. Again, it's free. You got nothing to lose, so subscribe. All right, everyone. Take care.